Record on this. Aloha and welcome to WASP, Witch and Shaman Podcast. Today we're just introducing ourselves to you, so let's meet our hosts. Hello, Shaman Christopher. How are you this fine day?
Oh, I'm good. Thank you.
Yes, we are coming from coast to coast, so I'm on the East Coast. Shaman Christopher's on the West Coast. Not necessarily the same country, though. So we're international right from jump.
Well, it's Canada, but some people will take you know, umbrage to me being in Canada and you being in the U.S. But it's the same continent, but friendly borders sometimes.
Yeah, generally speaking, yes.
Generally.
So what I would like to do today, since this is our inaugural broadcast, or what I like to say, we are playing around and just testing things. We want to introduce ourselves to you so that you can decide whether or not you believe that you would like to listen to the podcast. We're hoping to podcast live every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern and
7 a.m. Western time.
Pacific,
Western. Coming from an island out in the Pacific, I got to remember there's Hawaii time, and then there's West Coast Standard Time.
And then there's the rest of the world. Yeah. So my name is Geralyn St. Joseph. I am the witch of the Witch and Shaman Podcast. I am not a pagan, so to speak, and I do not follow Wiccan practices necessarily. I like to think that I'm pretty well versed in many different practices and many different religions and belief systems. So I like to study and learn. I am a professional psychic intuitive. I've been a professional since 1994. I do readings for people all over the world. I also perform clearings and healings. Energy healings are not necessarily where I'm going in and healing you. What it is allowing the energy of the universe or God to flow through me and for you to accept it and to help your body, support your body in healing itself. I am a native of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I think it's time for Shaman Christopher.
Wow. Yeah, I was born in Hawaii, not necessarily a native Hawaiian, but I was born there and traveled across the U.S. extensively, studying with various teachers. And yeah, I've been practicing. Gosh, I had an early awakening experience in the early 90s. And since then, a lot of things have come my way, and a lot of studying and a lot of practicing of different healing modalities, different intuitive practices. And yeah, I had a practice in Hawaii for a few years and then eventually made my way to Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. And here we are, just sharing our knowledge with you. And hopefully you'll find this exciting and interesting.
And informative. So, how did we meet, Mr. Christopher?
Well, I remember just driving around and my intuition was saying I needed a reading, and I don't usually get readings too often from other intuitives, and walked into a coffee shop and I saw this woman doing tarot card readings, and I'm like, I wonder if she's any good. And I took about three walk-bys, and finally, after the third time, my intuition says, yeah, stop and get a reading. I'm like, all right. So I went ahead and paid for reading and laughed through the whole reading because it was exactly what I would have thought. And yeah, gosh, was it 25 years ago? Probably.
Oh my Lord. 2003, I think.
Yeah,
Wow.
that'd make it almost 20 years ago.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
It's been a while. Been a little bit. Yeah. So
hate counting those years, then you start feeling
yeah,
old.
it's like, oh God, I'm old. But that's okay. That's okay. It could be worse. We could be in our hundreds or something and still doing this. Who knows?
Well, maybe the technology will be different by the time we're 100, right?
Oh, it'll definitely be different. We're either going to be throwing sticks and stones at each other, or it'll be like you don't even have to think about it. You just would look at a camera and then start talking.
Something out of Star Wars or something.
Yes, it'll just be everywhere. So, did you study a particular practice of shamanism? Like when you first started?
It was kind of uh, a mix of things. My mom was a bit of a mystic and intuitive growing up, so I was exposed to some of those practices. And then my teacher didn't like calling herself a shaman. When I first had my awakening experience, that was in Florida. And then as I traveled back to Hawaii, had various teachers. And I studied some Toltec teachings for a while, and then some Hawaiian teachings for a while. And then one of my teachers said something very profound. It was, we're all the same. We're just separated by language. And then after years of practicing, realizing everybody's saying the same thing, they just have different words for states of consciousness and awareness and tools. And that kind of freed me up from the idea of being tied to a tradition. And then after much study and practice and kind of why wasn't I tied to a tradition or practice? And then it dawned on me, if there's something that isn't addressed in your tradition or practice, you won't be able to address it. So uh, that freed me up to really kind of experiment with what would work and what seems to work for me. And another teacher said, you know what, take what works for you, make it your own. And if it doesn't work for you or serve you, yeah, leave it. It's okay. And that's kind of been my process for the last 15, 20 years, just seeing what really works for me, what resonates for me. A lot of people, I think, get hung up on tradition. And now, not to dismiss tradition, it's very important. But in my case, I was letting it kind of hold me back in a lot of ways from just kind of innovating, experimenting, being open to new ideas. So it's a fine line between kind of owning your tradition and stepping out and trying new things, and always being a student. Really, we call it a practice, right, for a reason.
Exactly. Yes. When I teach, I often say, if anybody tells you that their method is the only way to do something, run, because they have no idea what they're talking about. We all know that there's so many different avenues leading to the same things. There are some ways that work better for you than others, or that are safer than others. So one of the things that people often, I hear a lot, is that you're not allowed to call yourself a shaman. The shaman that I know, they've been given that title by either clients or whoever they're practicing with because they've reached a certain level. What do you feel about that belief that
You
shaman
know,
must just be hidden?
it's kind of a loaded term nowadays. I mean, a lot of people want to gatekeep, say you can't do this or that. Uh, and there's particular lineages and traditions. I'm right up front. I'm not going to tie myself to any sort of particular culture or traditions. Like, try it, see if it works for you, and if it doesn't, well, then it doesn't work for you, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not insisting that my way is the only way. I mean, I've met incredible teachers, healers from different lineages, and once you really boil it down to, it's like we're all connected, we're all one. So whatever heals you, it heals all of us,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I really feel deep down in my, as we say in Hawaii, na'au, the gut, right? The gut is the truth of the matter, and that really will let you know when it settles into your gut and makes you feel all warm and fuzzy, and then you've got a kernel of truth there that resonates with you. Most oftentimes we're in our heads about things, about what this can't be, that can't be, but something inside of us deeper goes, no, it's true. So You just have to get out of your head. That's kind of the head talking. Oh, it can't be this, it can't be that. It's like, really? Have you tried it? So,
Exactly. It's it's about openness, but not so open that your brains fall out.
hmm
So, as you said, different things will work for different people. And I know that you developed a, I guess, a signature type of healing that we were calling, oh my goodness, connected heart healing, I think is what we were calling it, where two practitioners who have similar frequencies will connect up with one another, and that creates a bigger field or a much more powerful field. Do you remember
yeah,
that?
it
Infinite heart
wasn't,
healing. That's what we called it.
yeah,
Infinite
yes, we
heart
called it
healing.
infinite heart healing. And I wouldn't say I created it. Really, I remembered it from previous lifetimes where, operated in a different civilization, different awareness, and remembered it. A lot of us is just a matter of remembering who we are. We've
Mm-hmm.
come into this existence really kind of forgetting a lot of things and really remembering as we drop away our limiting beliefs, our limiting structures, and we tap into this infinite universal consciousness that has all things. And that's what I really would say. Not the creator of it, but maybe just a remember of it from my ancient past.
Yes, and I remember practicing with you, and it was very effective. The key, though, was finding people whose frequency that you could hook up with to help to amplify. That's what I was looking for. Amplify the energetic, and it would help really accelerate the healing process and what was happening in the room. So the other thing that I remember, we worked together many times doing the full moon ceremonies in Hawaii. That was awesome. And we had a particular way that we did it. And it was something that brought people together. And we did it for several years. Do you miss
Yeah, it was very interesting because I pretty much just kept it open to whoever would show up and
them?
whatever came my way. And it was a real practice of just kind of allowing and being open to anything and working with it. Often surprised myself and others. I'm like, I didn't know what I was going to do at that moment. And something came out of my mouth that deeply affected people, was deeply profound. And yeah, I look forward to doing some more of those around here in the near future. But yeah, every environment has its challenges, and just trying to figure out to navigate the ways and lands and means around this particular geography I'm residing at. But quite amazing. I could detail more of those experiences later.
So just a reminder that Shaman Christopher and myself, we are both professionals. I am a full-time professional, and David Christopher is stepping back into doing this professionally again. We will have a website. It's just not ready yet, but maybe by the time you see this video, it will be. And then you can look us up. And if you would like to work with us, we don't need to be on the same even continent together to be able to work together. Energy is fluid. It works no matter where you go. So all you would need is to have the desire to work with one of us and really be open to what was happening, whether that be a clearing or it be some kind of past life work, whatever it is that you need. And that's the thing. Sometimes we don't know exactly what you're going to need until we get there. Would you say that's accurate?
Pretty accurate. I mean, space time is no barrier to consciousness. We project our consciousness elsewhere every time we go to sleep. And people don't understand that unless they've really kind of dived into the deep end. Um, and just our waking mind wants some tangible proof. So oftentimes, yeah, we could do over the phone or Zoom and affect healings. And I think most people would find that preferable. Of course, if we could, I'd fly anywhere and just show up at your doorstep, say, "Hey, look, come here." But this is, I don't have a a cloning machine, so I think sometimes at a distance, Zoom calls or a phone call will have to suffice.
Exactly. And there are times where we can work on people who have given us permission to do the work, even without having you on the phone, but doing the prayers and the energy work behind the scenes. Because sometimes you have resistance that comes up in the moment. And a good way to get past that is to not confront directly, but maybe like I've had different people that I've worked on when we know that they're sleeping or when they're unaware of what time I'm going to do it. So they'll feel the energy come in, possibly. Not everybody feels it, but the shift will happen and they're not having to be on the phone telling me that, oh no, that never happened.
Yeah, it's
I never
amazing
fought with
how.
my mother. I never got in trouble my entire life. No, no. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, it's quite amazing how the active waking conscious mind can throw up all sorts of resistance. Oftentimes, though, I do like to tell clients, a certain general time, so they're not doing something like driving or
mm-mm.
operating some machinery that needs their attention, because even working remotely at a distance can kind of throw you off. So I'll just say, you know what, I'll work with you on the dream time and do that at night or sometime when they might be resting. So that's a little safer in the physical world.
Yeah, exactly. So, is there anything else you would like people to know about you, or you think that people should know about me as we move forward? Like, why should they listen to this podcast? Besides the fact that
Um,
we're both very good looking and wonderful
well,
orators.
I don't know about being good looking. I always thought of myself as just kind of average guy. But why? Well, some great conversation, interesting topics. Just a way to kind of, if you ever felt kind of alone or out there with your practice, or just not feeling like you're at home, and you were drawn to this, it's just something inside your consciousness kind of niggling. It's like hopefully we can be a source of information, awareness, growth, all of these things that would enhance your life and make it more exciting, more interesting, lessen maybe a feeling of alone. I know early on in my practice and my awakening, it just felt so alone out there, like I was almost going crazy at times. And then as I made friends that held a similar consciousness, a viewpoint, it kind of eased that burden. And it's amazing watching the younger generation. They don't seem to have that, but some of us, believe it or not, still do have this kind of anxiety about being out in the world.
Oh, I think the younger generation has more anxiety than any generation ever. They're so into like being afraid and playing with, I don't know. It just, I see so many kids who are afraid to learn how to drive. They're afraid to go out on their own. They're afraid to be who they really are. So they follow like ducks in a row. Not that that's not common for people, because you tend to follow the leader. It just is a human trait. That's why a lot of people are called sheep or the sheeple. Um, but I see like the younger generations, I think a lot of us tried to raise our kids so that they knew who they were from jump. Like I considered, we never told our kids there's no such thing as ghosts, because that's a lie. We never told our kids there's no such thing as monsters, because that's a lie. Even though many monsters are human, are people, there are other things out there, and making them aware of all these things and empowering them so that when they came across them, they knew what to do and they weren't afraid or helpless. You might be afraid, but you don't feel helpless. I think that's important. And I think that's something that's missing, is that there's all this denial and all this pushing of the generation towards technology, when technology is not where it's at. Technology interferes a lot of times with our energetics. It interferes with our EMF. I have a very high electromagnetic field, where I had an electrician check me once. He's like, you are like being electrocuted right now because your EMF is so high. I affect things, especially if I'm upset. Can't touch things. I have to have like a cordless everything, because if I touch my computer directly and I'm starting to do work, I will fry it. I have fried more phones and computers than I dare even talk about.
Well, a lot of people don't understand the physical, and I can put it into scientific terms. So, they just think of these bodies as just flesh. Well, this flesh is, our bodies produce an electromagnetic signature, and then you start thinking in those terms, and then everything else that's electronic gives off an electromagnetic frequency. So, kind of like in the movie The Matrix, and Morpheus shows this is what we are for the machines, is just the batteries, and it's like, yeah, of course. So our thoughts, our behaviors affect our electromagnetic field, and you can often see this in practitioners of martial arts, Tai Chi, Qigong, and high levels of other martial arts, where you get these old masters, and they look very slight in build, and they're pushing around a 350-pound muscular wrestler with what they call chi, and their nervous system just has a high degree of ability to manipulate electromagnetic energy. And scientists have studied this for decades now, the electromagnetic field. Humans produce it, but it's not well understood, except maybe in some practitioners, that we could produce more and generate more and manipulate it. And people think, because they can't can't see it, they don't believe it, but you can definitely feel it in your body, but people kind of dismiss it. Now, high practitioners of healing arts, know it's a real thing, and oftentimes their clients, have received healings. But I think also the PR by Western medicine and scientists, in order to gatekeep the money, oftentimes poo-poo it. So that's my thoughts and thinking on the kind of the electromagnetic spectrum that we put out.
Yeah, the one thing that I would recommend to people is to be very aware of all the electronics you have around you. So I see a lot of kids who always have the cell phone in their hand, and adults also do the same thing. It's letting off, it's a radiation, it's an electric frequency. And if you're around it too much, it disrupts your field. Just like you should not have electronics in your bedroom when you're asleep. I understand a lot of us use our phones as our alarm clocks now, but keep it away from your head, keep it away from you, so you're not right on top of it. Don't have a television in your bedroom. That is something that I very much believe in, that when you have so many electronics that are pulling in this energy and emitting this energy, it really messes with your frequency, so that you're not getting a good night's sleep. You're not feeling rested when you wake up. And a lot of it is because there's so much EMF in the air now, so much radiation in the air, that we're not giving our bodies a chance to come back down to the 0 point. And that's something that we really need to do. And that's why people say to go out into nature. But we can have a whole conversation on this in one of our official podcasts once we get going. So I think it's time to sign off. What do you think, David Christopher?
Yeah, I think a good introduction for everyone, and I look forward to sharing more of, just our lived experience. All right. Aloha, everyone, and mahalo.
Aloha.